Hello, my name's Snow. Welcome to the video. This video is a continuation of my Winged Hobbits AU, which, if you haven't seen that video, this all started when a friend texted me a Facebook post claiming that hobbits had wings in it. I ran with the idea and slapped a bunch of wings onto a bunch of hobbits from The Lord of the Rings. But, Snow, the title said elves. What does this have to do with hobbits? Well, my dear friend, I am so glad you asked. I have decided that this AU will simply be my outlet of adding creature parts to my favorite characters. I get to make the rules. Elves are foresty, so they get deer parts. Before I get started, because these are elves, I make a lot of Silmarillion references. So, to all who have read the Silmarillion, please forgive any mistakes. I've only read it twice, and it is a very complicated book, as you probably know. And to all who haven't read the Silmarillion, I'm going to do a quick summary of the events that I reference, and I will try to make these events as understandable as possible. Once upon a time, before the sun and the moon, there were two trees that were the light of the world. These trees were in Valinor, the only place on earth that had not been corrupted by the evil hands of Morgoth, Sauron's superior. On one fateful day, Morgoth, with the help of Shelob's mum, Ungoliant, killed the trees. The dying blossoms of the trees were saved and turned into the sun and the moon. But before this, an elf named Feanor made 3 gems called Silmarils, which contained the essence of the light of the 2 trees. They were beautiful, and he was prideful and possessive of them. When Morgoth killed the trees, he also took the Silmarils, and in an act of anger and hunger for revenge, he and his 7 sons swore to pursue anything that kept them from the Silmarils, or else be sentenced to the everlasting dark. Fast forward many wars and conflicts, Luthien and her fiancé Beren managed to take a Silmaril straight off of Morgoth's crown. Her family keeps it until it comes to Elrond's mother, Elwyn. Maglor, Maedhros, Amrod, and Amras, the surviving sons of Feanor at the time, demanded for the Silmaril, and when they were denied, they brought devastation on Elwing's city. Elwing thought that Elrond and Elros, her sons, were kidnapped, and when she heard this, she threw herself into the sea. She was turned into a bird by Ulmo, one of the Valar, and she took the Silmaril to her husband, who was at sea at the time. They make it to Valinor, and the Star of Arendelle was made, though it is not a star, but a Silmaril. They could not return to Middle-earth, so Elrond and Elros were essentially orphaned. But the 2 brothers who survived the conflict, Maglor and Maedhros, had pity and acted as their fathers. As a reward for returning the Silmarils, and since they were half-elven, the Valar let Elrond and Elros choose to become fully elf or fully man. Elrond chose elf, while Elros chose man. Elros's line became the Númenóreans. This concludes the snippet of the Silmarillion. These designs were actually kind of interesting to do, because for at least Elrond and Galadriel, I didn't have official designs for them. The closest I had gotten to an official design, at least for Elrond, was my drawing of him in Icarus and Apollo, a PMV that I made on Boromir. You should check it out, it's in the title card. I've drawn Elrond several times before this, but I always struggled with trying to make him line up to my mental image. I find drawing the elves of Tolkien's world very difficult because it feels like a lot of them have the same parameters. They're conventionally pretty / attractive. Almost all of them have black hair and gray eyes, and I have a hard time trying to make them look unique. But something about the way that I drew him in Icarus and Apollo just felt right to my mental image of Elrond. So, it actually made me excited for this project. I wasn't planning on making this project because I was so scared of trying to design Elrond and Galadriel, but it gave me faith. one of the things that I love, one of the headcanons that I love, is that Elrond walks around with a bunch of heirlooms, just referencing his insane connections, because if you didn't catch on during my Silmarillion segment, he's got crazy genetics. He's related to pretty much everyone important ever, and then the people that he wasn't related to essentially adopted him. And then also he married Galadriel's daughter. So really he's related to almost every single important type of elf ever. So I had a very fun time trying to incorporate little elements. I added Nifredil for Luthien, the Feanorian star for Maedhros and Maglor, and then I did a simplified version of the Star of Arendelle to add on his belt as a nod to his dad. But I wanted Elrond to kind of have a very night-focused outfit. So Galadriel I associate more with the day, and I feel like Elrond represents more of the night. So when I get to coloring later, I'll do that. I also felt the need to draw his great-great-grandparents, Melian and Thingol, because I wanted to figure out where his antlers got silly from. And Melian is a Maya, which is essentially an angel, and she's the only Maya who ever had kids with any of the children of Iluvatar, aka elves or men. So he's also related to the only Maya who he could be related to. Fun fact. So I wanted to include her because I also was trying to figure out how squiggly I wanted her antlers to be, and I ended up making them not too squiggly. And then Thingol was there because I wanted to include his gray hair ancestry, because I also really love the headcanon that Elrond's got some gray hair. I just love it. I think it's great. But in terms of the antlers, I based them off of red deer antlers and Thorald's deer antlers. Unlike the Winged Hobbits AU, I did not give a care about where the deer were from, because I felt like the artistic expression was more important, and also part of the reason why I incorporated the geographical boundaries in the last video was so that I wouldn't have a bajillion options, because there's so many birds with so many cool wings and I couldn't have handled it. But for Elrond, I wanted him to look a lot like his great-grandma Luthien, and so I gave him really nice hair. I like the idea that Elrond has crazy nice hair. I think it's so funny and so great and so perfect. I love it a lot. And I also gave him antlers that look almost exactly like Luthien's, because I think it would be cool if Arwen looked a lot like her dad, because a lot of people say that Arwen looks like Luthien. I think that's cute, you know? And I also had a lot of fun adding jewelry to the antlers. I've had this discussion with my good friend Leaf. We both decided that if we had antlers, we would probably put jewelry on them. Or if people in general had antlers, we would put jewelry on them. And especially since all of these elves are so important, they would have a lot of jewelry, I would think. But yeah, this is my design for Elrond the Half-Elven. I also felt the need to design Luthien because I wanted him to look a lot like his great-great-grandma. And yeah, that's the design. Unlike Elrond, whom I discovered his design in Icarus and Apollo, I hated her design that I made in Icarus and Apollo. I tried so hard to make her look cool, and I failed. She didn't look cool, at least enough, or at least according to my brain standards. And so that was really disheartening, and I was very much dreading designing her. You can see in a little bit a doodle pops up. I was really angry about the way that everything was turning out because I couldn't tell what my brain wanted from me, and nothing was quite making the catch. So I needed to chill because all was fine. It all was fine in the end. But no, I eventually got to a place where I was satisfied with Galadriel's design, especially when I did her side profile. I always feel like making a side view of a character's face helps me have an idea of their nose, especially in my style. It's really easy to make noses look similar in the front-facing position, so I think doing her side view helped a lot. But Galadriel's ring is for the element of water, so for her dress I kind of wanted to have at least a very flowy feel, and the ruffles at the bottom are supposed to be a little bit like the foam at the bottom of a waterfall. But because I ended up coloring her with white and gold, it doesn't really read as water. I didn't want to give her blue because I had already given blue to Elrond. Plus it's always fun when there's primary colors, and since Gandalf's the third ring bearer and his ring is red, I felt it made the most sense to make Galadriel yellow, and since she already has the golden hair. That was another hard thing about Galadriel. I had to make her hair look really, really nice because she's got awesome hair. Like, in the lore, her hair is very important because it is said that her hair held some of the light of the two trees. And in the making of the Silmarils, Feanor asked 3 times for a strand of her hair, and each time Galadriel said no. So if you've read The Lord of the Rings and ever been confused about the significance of Gimli receiving 3 hairs from Galadriel, that's why it's significant, because she gave a dwarf 3 strands but would not give her own uncle 3 strands of her hair. Anyway, I designed Feanor as well during this because Galadriel's dad is Feanor's brother, half-brother. So I wanted to make sure that there was some family resemblance, at least in the way that their antlers looked. Their antlers are based off of red deer antlers. I wanted to use the red deer antlers because they're phenomenally spiky, and Feanor is a phenomenally spiky character. I forgot to mention this for Elrond, but one of the things that I was doing was looking at other artists' depiction of fashion for elves that came from Valinor. Morgan Rogers, or Silmaspins on Tumblr, had a very cool fashion lineup with a bunch of different fashion types for the different types of elves in Tolkien's Silmarillion and or his works. I used that to try and have ideas for Elrond and Galadriel's clothing, and it was really helpful. But I'm really happy with how Galadriel turned out. I think that she ended up being a lot nicer than I was hoping for, and I also like how I drew her uncle and her dad. Congratulations, you've made it through the Silmarillion segment. Now we can talk about the Lord of the Rings. Hooray! Legolas was fun because I already have a design for him. I didn't have to think very hard about his outfit or what he looked like because I've already drawn him. I've drawn him many a times, so I could just focus on his antlers. I also recently redesigned his coloration, so I got to try out that coloration with a full body, which I hadn't done yet. I just darkened his hair a little bit because I thought it looked nice, and also it communicated that he was kind of a lesser elf compared to, like, say, Galadriel, who has very important bloodlines. Also, fun fact, in my design, the cloak that Legolas has on is made from deer skin, so whether or not you find that horrifying or perfect is up to you. His antlers are based off of the Sombar deer, and I chose it simply because of the shape. I thought that the shape looked really cool, and I think it communicated the elegance of elves without making it look like super dramatic like the red deer. I designed Legolas and his dad, and because I couldn't think of anyone else that he was related to that came up in the Silmarillion, I drew Arwen, which is fun because I've actually never drawn Arwen before, so I wanted to give it a shot. Not perfect, but it was nice trying to find a actual image for my mental image. I guess I can break down my design for Legolas. I really like giving him freckles because he's a bit of a younger elf, and I also wanted to have him look a little bit more rugged, and I felt like the freckles kind of communicated more down to earth. And also I like the fact that he matches Sam in that way. I gave him a mostly green outfit because he's a gray elf who lives in Mirkwood, and I thought that the green would be the best. And also this design, my major lineup of designs that I made last year are all specifically their designs setting out from Rivendell. The Fellowship setting out from Rivendell. This is not their final designs, and they change a lot, and they gain like new accessories or lose accessories. So this is not what Legolas looks like at the end of the book in my design. But yeah, this is a Legolas design. I really like it. I just added a strap to his antlers to add a little bit of flavor. But I really like it. I think he looks really woodsy and fun. And that's all. That's all the designs I did for Elves with Antlers. If you want to see more of your favorite Lord of the Rings characters with silly little creature parts tacked onto them, let me know in the comments. And also, if you have any requests, I might take them, or at least draw them for a community post. This video was significantly less scripted than the last one. Hopefully you still had fun. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. It has been so much fun making so much Lord of the Rings content. I hope you guys have such a great day, and remember to take care of yourselves.